I want to thank Temarius, how do you pronounce your name? Temarius, and Christine for being our alums. If you could tell us a little bit about when you graduated and what you're doing now, and then we'll start into the how the freak did you get there, okay?
Ladies first.
Oh. Okay, nice. Let's see. I graduated in 2013. I was part of the online program, 100%. Did the degree for web design, new media as an online student. I've been working in web design, UX, UI since then, and now I work for PowerSchool, which some of you may have heard of. It's one of the largest student information systems for K through 12 education. I'm the digital marketing designer there, so I'm involved in all kinds of projects from web design and digital advertising to signage and branding and print design and all that good stuff. So it's fun.
Hi, my name is Temarius Walker, and I graduated from the Academy of Art University in spring of 2015 in May. I studied illustration originally, but I decided to switch over to game development, and I'm currently one of the lead environment concept artists for a Bay Area company called SVA Games, and I'm also a contract concept artist for Madrone Studios in downtown San Francisco.
Thank you. I just noticed yesterday you're working for 2 different companies. How does that work?
I'm mainly a contractor, and so I have the privilege of going into studios whenever they need me, but I can also work from home, and so I get to take on multiple projects at once.
Excellent, thank you. So, Christine, you did your program entirely online, and you were able to get an internship when you were close to graduating. How did that happen?
Yes, actually, I was able to get an internship through the Academy of Arts Career Services Program. It was kind of on a lark, and I connected with a very cool educational children's publishing company out of San Francisco, and got to work on developing an app for one of their books that ended up being a finalist at Macworld. Won an Appy Award. It was just a great opportunity, and that led to working with the firm that actually developed a lot of their apps and ebooks and interactive stuff based on their books, and that led to one thing after another and after another. So, yeah, without the internship, I don't know where I'd be.
So details on working with career services. What does that mean? What did you do exactly?
What does that mean? Well, actually, I think at the time there was a large focus on getting students to get their portfolios up there, and I definitely encourage anybody, especially in the online program, if you are not having the FaceTime with the instructors, the faculty, the students that you would if you were here in person, get your name, your work up there as much as possible. And then also just look at the opportunities. I mean, fortunately, I live in the Sacramento area, so can come into the city. So there were opportunities within a radius that allowed me to look at positions, internships, anything like that coming through. So I would be on there daily looking at opportunities, and yeah.
So even from Sacramento, you would look at San Francisco. That's like a 3-hour drive one way?
Yeah, it's kind of, yes. And to Palo Alto area even longer, which is actually where the app, we developed the company that I worked for then. It was a startup, and they were based in the San Jose, Palo Alto areas. So, yeah, it was a ridiculous commute, but you do things for a reason for a short period of time.
We're going to come back to that, but I'm going to leave over. So, did you get an internship, and how'd you make that happen? What's the magic path?
So, as I kind of like dive into my personal story and what I talk about, I really just want to convey just the truth that there really is no sort of like magic straightforward path. Mine definitely was just a journey with like lots of different turns, especially just in the 2 years that I've graduated. And I didn't have any internships right out of school. When I was around 20 years old, I worked on a couple of indie films with a local company in San Francisco called Rockbridge Productions. So they do like video production and commercials, and I helped out with some indie films that were unreleased. But besides freelance work, I really didn't have much work experience coming out of school. And so just like Christine, I was just always looking for opportunities. I was always putting my work out there, always going to networking events. Because I'm in game development and GDC, and just various events like that are huge in my field. And so I was always connecting with people, and that led to freelance work, that led to meeting people, and it led to more opportunities.
So when you meet your first group of people and you do some work for them, then they refer you on to other people if they like what you've done.
Most definitely. I think definitely when you get like your first opportunity, that's really, really very important because not only is it an opportunity just to do what you love, but it's a great opportunity to really take care of your client. And I think when working in art and design, it's really easy to forget that what we do really isn't about us, or it's not about us doing our work, but it's really about serving our clients and really helping their ideas come to life and helping bring their dreams to reality. And so definitely just always keep the client first.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was talking to Temarius. I was trying to remember how I met him and when I met him, because I was sure that he started out as an online student, and he did, but just for a couple semesters. But we actually swapped emails back and forth because he wanted to come on campus to attend a drawing workshop, or it was the costume carnival in the School of Illustration. And he was also in the Sacramento area at the time, and he was going to drive in to go to this event. And I was just so impressed. I remembered your name since then.
Thank you.
All right, Christine, here it comes. The story. Commuting from Sacramento to Palo Alto. And you have a daughter. Yeah, okay. You make it sound so normal. Tell us what it was really like.
What you do for the love of design, right? No. No, you do for opportunity, actually. It was a great opportunity. Like I said, I worked on that one app, and that led to this startup being accepted into 500 Startups, which is an accelerator program led by Dave McClure, and all the venture capitalists are looking at all these companies, and it's one of those very challenging, difficult, working around the clock, but wearing many hats and getting amazing opportunities to do a ton of things and work with amazing people. And so that was all in the Palo Alto area, and so what was I going to do, say no? So I would spend half the week down there and the other half of the week in the Sacramento area, and did that actually for a number of years. I continued on to a startup in the education ed tech field that they were based in San Francisco, and continued to do that for another few years. So it felt very much like living out of the suitcase until I was really excited to have the opportunity at PowerSchool, which is based in Folsom, where I live. So it was a long path, but I wouldn't really trade it for anything because the experience was worth it. It really was.
Excellent. Very nice. So, when you worked on the independent films when you were 20, how did you find that opportunity? You just like came into San Francisco and hey, I'll work for anybody doing anything? I mean, how did that happen?
So when I was 18, I actually moved down to San Francisco, and my first on-site semester was in the fall of 2010. And so it was during my second year that I actually got my very, very first opportunity. I remember I was drawing in class, and I had a friend who actually worked for the video production company, and he just asked me if I could just help him work on this film because he really liked my artwork. And so while in school, I was someone who was just so like immersed in like my craft. Like for me, it was like a river of interest. And so like as much as I could, like when I wasn't, running track for the college team, or when I wasn't, being an RA and helping out with my residents, like I was just always drawing, and I was just always immersed in what I did. And so naturally, like if you're just always committing time to your craft and always just doing the best that you can to excel and to get yourself out there, these things are going to come to you. Just even sometimes, like, I'll just get opportunities where people just email me and they'll be like, hey, can you work on this? Or we'd like to interview you for this. Or like things just come, and just people have a way of just finding you if you're part of like online art communities, or if you're making connections, or if you're really making the effort and you're putting the time into your craft. I think a great analogy is to look at your artwork, and everything that you do is like a garden. And the time that you put in it is like a seed. And as artists and as students, you're constantly planting and nurturing that seed. It's like the Chinese bamboo tree. They say it takes about 5 years to grow, but the gardener has to nurture it and water it every day. But if you don't nurture it for like a specific amount of days, the seed actually dies and it goes back into the ground. And so with your art and with your craft, being as students, you have to nurture it and work at it as much as you can and treat it as if it's something that's very important to you. And you're going to get exactly what you put out of it. It's like a ratio, and it's almost like a law of like cause and effect.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was eloquent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, Christine, after this commute from you-know-where, okay, many hours, living out of a suitcase, you even sold your house at one point? Oh, my God. Okay. So you finally found something. How far away is it from where you live or where you used to live?
12 minutes now.
12 minutes.
To work versus 3 hours or
3 or
so
4 hours.
to get to
Okay.
the area. And yeah.
How did you find that? Was that a huge surprise that that company was there?
It was, yeah, actually, I had no idea that anything like that and an opportunity like that would be in the backyard. And I was frankly getting to the point of burnout with, how much will you do for an opportunity kind of thing. And it was kind of ironic. I was working on designing an app and working through the experience design of it and the interface and doing a lot of research on a company called InfoSnap, which did registration, online registration for schools. And so it turned out that InfoSnap was just acquired by PowerSchool. And I was just looking at just regular opportunities through a job listing and found out, oh, this PowerSchool is interesting. Where are they located? Folsom? So it was sort of definitely a moment like, I have to get that job.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Okay. So now that you've heard a little bit from our panelists, the question is, do you have questions for them? There we go. All right.
Just curious, are there any companies that you guys have worked for that you've struggled to get in their art department? Or have you had opportunities that you've wanted to get and you just couldn't find the road there? I don't know if that makes sense. Or just for example, I work for a company right now that I work in their warehouse. They're a skateboard manufacturing company. We have a big graphic design department. Not exactly sure if that's where I'd want to be down the road, but just wondering, like, if you have an opportunity at a company you already work for, is it better to start there or to just look other places too, I don't know if that's a loaded question, but.
No, actually, that's a great question. So I think if you're at a company and clearly you're not in a department that you want to be in, but that department that you really want to be in does exist in your company and there's an opportunity, I think it's actually a lot easier to kind of move forward in that company if the opportunity arises. Just from a concept artist perspective, it's really, really difficult and competitive just to break in from just an outsider, especially like right out of school. And so if you're a part of a company where you can move up and get an opportunity, I would actually recommend taking that, if that's what you want.
Right, okay.
Yeah, but I think it just goes down to what your goals are and like where you want to be.
So do you have...
But having the chance to develop a portfolio at a company that already trusts you and you trust, that might help you out.
Yeah, I agree. The current company I'm with, SVA Games, I started off in the marketing department, and because they were happy with the work that I did and because I developed a great relationship with like the people that I worked with and my boss, I was able to move up pretty quickly.
Cool.
Yeah, and I would add to that it depends on how far from what you want to do, what you're doing in that company too, and if it looks like there is a path there, but to keep working on your own to do side projects and that kind of thing, there's usually, if you're like kind of keyed into what's going on within the company and you're networking within the company, there may be opportunities sort of on the side to show your work that also you get a reputation. Something that Temarius had mentioned I want to emphasize is like that work ethic, I think is at least half of how an opportunity presents itself to you. If you got to be talented, work hard, but if you are really in it all in and you are working with people in the company or clients as though they are the top number one in your mind, customer service, you are absolutely like on schedule, you're meeting deadlines, that becomes golden because it's a little bit rarer than you'd hope, and that word travels fast and people want to work with you.
Right.
So to continue on this track, do you have any suggestions for him as to how to sort of network his way into the art department in a casual way, not just show up and go, I want a job?
I'd say one of the best pieces of advice that I can give you is really just getting to know the people that you work with and trying to just to talk casually with people in those other departments. I think if you're at a company, especially at like a bigger company, it's just really good to be aware of just what everyone's doing and to really network and talk to them, and whether it's coffee or lunch, just to really just take the time just to talk to people and just ask questions, be curious, and show that you have like a genuine interest in like what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know if they have company events that give you an opportunity to mingle. Always take those. But even if you just kind of keep an eye on who is on the team that you're interested in getting into, and you can say, hey, you know what, can I buy you coffee or something? I just kind of like to pick your brain on a few things. You can get some advice from them too, and that opens a door.
Great question. Do we have more questions? No.
There are no wrong questions. Ask as many as you'd like.
There we go.
I got obviously a loud voice, sorry. Did it take you guys I don't know, I can't remember your guys' degrees and how, like if you guys went for bachelor's or whatnot, did you guys get it in that, like, did you guys go full-time or did you go part-time?
I had to go full-time because I was on a scholarship as an athlete with the school, and so in order to stay here, I had to go full-time.
Oh. Yeah, I was doing it part-time.
Yeah. And so it took you a little bit
program.
Longer than
It did.
Maybe some, okay.
Yes.
But definitely paid off.
Yes.
Awesome.
I will say, as an online student, I did see a lot of classmates take a semester off here and there, and it was hard for them to get back in again. So just purely from it's usually if you're working full-time and you're trying to do the program, it's like try to keep going with it. I would take a summer off if I could, but yeah, it's good to just plow through if you can.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's what I was like trying to decide because, like you said, it's so much work that like I decided to take summer off, but then I was like, oh man, am I gonna lose motivation? Or not necessarily lose motivation, but you know, like keep going and get to my goal even quicker or not. So that's good to know that.
It's good to sometimes give yourself a breather.
Right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Also, just to say one more thing, if you decide to take summer off from class, in your free time, you can still practice learning what you've learned. And so as long as you're building your portfolio and your craft, if you're not necessarily taking a class over summer, you can still be growing in other ways as an artist. I think, especially for like the kind of work we do, is that you never want to go backwards. Like you always want to make sure you're going forward.
Just curious, how much time after school did you guys focus on just building your portfolio? Or were you guys already had a finished portfolio by the time you graduated?
Yeah, I think that, well, nowadays it's kind of expected you've got to have a portfolio by the time you graduate. But I definitely, you're working on it all the time. That can be time consuming in and of itself. But if you're always kind of keeping an idea of how do whatever project you're working on, how would I put this in a way that would best represent on your own site or your print portfolio or however.
I totally agree with what Christine said. With my field, it's a little bit different, and so there's not one portfolio that fits every company. Like when I had an interview with Lucasfilm or EA or just any other company, like those companies want you to have like different sets of work for different positions. And so for my field, the portfolio varies not only on the company, but like for the position that you're applying for. And so yes, I had actually a pretty solid portfolio graduating, but I had to alter that portfolio and just continue working on it as I applied to different companies, because the portfolio that I created for maybe ILM wouldn't work out for like Zynga, or wouldn't work out for some other company that I applied for.
Perfect.
Okay. This question may be a little on the personal side, so if you don't want to answer, that's fine. The question is, did either of you use any financial aid in your schooling, and how did you manage that, both during your school and now that you've graduated?
I did use financial aid. I also got lots of scholarships, and I even had an on-campus job. I was actually an RA. And so I decided to quit doing athletics because it just took up so much time from school, and they wanted to pay for my tuition, but I just couldn't take it. It was just, being an athlete and being in art school is, I think it's an amazing and beautiful experience if that's what you want to do, but time is a huge factor for what we do. And so sometimes I felt like I was like trading my soul. I was like, okay, I'm like getting this money to like go to school, but it's like I have so much less time to actually work on my craft, and I really want to focus on my craft. And so I actually decided to become an RA, and that covered a lot of pretty much my whole living situation. And so definitely, I think this school and just the city in general has a lot of great opportunities, because it is pretty expensive.
Can you explain what an RA is?
Oh, sorry for not elaborating. So an RA is a resident assistant. And so Campus Living Villages is actually an international company that is partnered with the Academy of Art University to actually have on-campus dorms. So Academy of Art doesn't have their own personal dorms. That's actually managed by an outside company. And so every year, Campus Living Villages will contract resident assistants who work with the resident director and the housing directors to help like manage and facilitate all the housing policies, and like we make sure that everything goes well for the students and that they follow the rules, and that like we have wellness programs and all kinds of things for the students, and we help them. And we also I believe like they have an event for like the online students and Student Expo in some of the dorms. I think there's one on Sutter, 860 Sutter. I remember working with that a couple years ago.
So with that, you got free housing, and what did you get? Some school paid for, or was it just?
No, just free housing. Yeah, but it was a great experience, and the time commitment was like 10 hours or less a week, and you had like your own room, you had like free meals. There were so many perks to being an RA. Like you get to go in like any building you want and work on stuff. Sometimes you get to go into like 180, but I don't know. Like during winter intercession, but like there's so many perks. So.
Financial aid, yes. And I don't know if you're an online student or, okay. I remember after the first semester looking at how much I had borrowed and saying, okay, am I going to really continue this? I got to know that now, and glad I did continue it. It's definitely, it's almost entire financial aid, how I was able to get through the school. I will be living with it for many years to come. But it was definitely, worth it. I think you have to, again, persevere, not give up. It's hard, especially if you're going part-time halfway through going, wow, how many, when am I going to be graduating? And really just keep going with it, because you will get to do what you love to do, so that when the payback, you got to pay it off. It comes in, it's not as painful because you are doing what you want to do because you pursue that path.
So I have a question. It's personal too. It's just for interior architecture design. So I came here this morning and I heard from one of the students said that the worst job right now in the United States is architecture. So that's very scary.
I'm sorry, they said what?
The worst job right now in the USA, one of them is in architecture design. So
really?
Yeah, the pay. She told me the pay is so low and it's not easy to get a job.
Who said you?
Her name is Claude. I don't know.
That's so strange. Okay.
Yeah. So.
Because I see a whole lot of building going on.
So here's to kind of add to that.
So she actually changed her job to web design. She had a master's degree for for architecture design. And just for the pay reason, she changed her job to web design. She was here this morning. I don't know where is she now.
One plug I'll give for web design, even if you're not in web design, is almost everything touches the web now. There are skills you pick up that you can use virtually anywhere. So there is a benefit to that. But going back to the other part of it, I have another degree. I graduated into a market that was just terrible. And then when I graduated from this, it seemed at the time it would be difficult to find a position too. There is an exception to every statistic. So, it doesn't, if that may be a trend, there's a downturn in those positions, they're not paying as much. There are opportunities out there still. You just have to work harder to find them and be that exception to the rule, because it might take longer to find it, but there always is something for the right person if you want it badly enough. If that's the answer you wanted.
I couldn't agree with her more. And just one piece of advice: whenever you hear people give you like statistics or details, something my grandmother always told me: always check your references. Especially in the Bay Area, there's just a lot of information going on and a lot of people saying a lot of things. And if you just do your own research, you'll start to see that people, they just get their information from some extraneous source, and it's oftentimes not always true. And one last thing, I would say, no matter what field you're in, yes, money is important, but while you're at school and you're studying and you're pursuing your goal, don't worry about what your salary is going to be when you graduate. See, I think one of the greatest benefits of being an artist and living in like America or like this Western country is that we're built on this kind of like capitalistic society where if you serve and if you like put a specific amount of like energy and output into something, then the public is just going to buy it and eat it up. Examples like social media. And so I think, especially for artists, the amount of revenue and income you make is going to be almost directly proportional to your ratio of service. And just to kind of illustrate that point, like if you look at people who are making big salaries, or if you're looking at people making specific types of money and what they do, like just really look at their position, their job title, and everything that entails, or just look at the amount of service that they're doing. There's a great community for artists called Patreon, where it's pretty much like crowdfunding for artists. And there's an artist named Sakima Chan, and she makes about $22,000 every couple months, and she just does tutorials. But her tutorials are very in-depth. She does a lot of work, and she produces most work than probably most people on that platform. And so don't focus so much on making a six-figure salary, or don't worry about necessarily being broke after college or doing art or changing majors because you don't think this is profitable. Just like really think of many different ways that you can use your art to contribute to different companies, or to society or different causes, just think of ways that you can market that and just think of ideas and think of that. And that's how like a lot of companies in the Bay Area, like Facebook, or just a lot of these startups got started, because these people who didn't have a lot of money at the time and who were just college students, they thought of ideas and ways to kind of serve people or things that they could do to contribute. And so just focus on just that, like service and quality of service. It's the key.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that too, because that's so true. And if you find yourself, you are working in an area to pay the bills, and it's not the position that you wanted to, either while you're in school or when you graduate, you can pick up. I think the best thing in the world is when you are learning at whatever you're doing, you can apply it to your design work. It really does come in handy, even if it doesn't seem obvious. So, and as long as, like you were saying, you're planting the seeds and you're continuing to work on the side, you're continuing to set goals for yourself, even if they're not paid projects, you will get to where you want to go. It's not losing sight of your end goal and not giving up if you're not seeing an immediate reward. Because it will pay off down the line. It seems easy to say, but it does take a lot of struggle. But if you love it, if you really are investing in yourself in the long run to take time to do that and continuing to stay alert and curious and picking up whatever you can from whatever you're doing, that will come together down the line.
Thank you. More questions?
So we are live streaming this event, and this is a question from someone online. They want to know if you have a current link to your portfolio or website that you want to give out.
Yes.
Yes, I do.
What's the URL to your website?
It's, in my case, it's ccarlsondesigner.com.
Mine's a little longer. www. That was 4 W's, I'm sorry. 3 W's. TemariusWalker.com. So T as in truck, EMARIUS, Walker, WALKER.com.
I'm laughing because your name tag is next to you on the stool.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
And it'll say C. Carlson with an O-N, designer.com.
You have another question?
Yes. Thank you. Sorry, I was writing. Hi. My question might seem personal again. If you don't feel like answering it, that is perfectly fine. But during your education, was there ever a moment, or more than one moment, when something was getting in your way, personally, financially, getting in your way of continuing your degree and continuing your study, and how were you able to overcome that?
Does it have to be financial? Can it be like psychological or like? Okay. So, man, where do I start? I think one thing that got in my way as a student was my own mind. I think being an artist and just working and doing what you do, like there's that saying that, if you work hard, you can become successful and you can do these things. But, there's a lot of people who work really, really hard and they have nothing to show for it. And there's people who seem not to work as hard, but they get like amazing results. And I remember I would look at these people and I would just look at them and I would be like, okay, maybe if I just, try and emulate what this person does, I can do it. And what I really had to discover along my journey was, and it's like, I call it the strangest secret, but it's not really a secret, but it's that we really become what we think about. And I remember there were a lot of times where in my classes where I was going to class, I was doing my homework, I was, doing the best that I could, I was turning out good work. Like, I had a couple of bad pieces here and there, and I remember I wasn't really sold internally or mentally that I could really do this. I remember I was working hard and putting in the hours, but I really didn't believe it. And when I really didn't believe it inside of myself, even though I kept putting in the hours, I didn't see the results, and I didn't see the growth, and I really didn't see the outcome of my goals. And it wasn't until I really started to change my mindset and to really kind of reprogram how I was thinking and how I was seeing my art and how I was seeing myself and my own self-image, and not comparing myself to other people, not worrying about what my peers doing across, the room from me, and just really realizing that, each artist or each individual person has their own latent abilities. Every person in here has genius. Every person in here has incredible potential. And, me and Christine, even though we're professionals in our field, we're not doing anything that no one in this room can't do. And really, I think what everyone needs to realize, regardless of where they're at in any journey or any field, is that there are no real limits, and the only barriers and the limits are your own creativity. And so really, you have to remember that if we become what we think about most of the time, then that means we have to really, really focus our thoughts on what we want to become, because they're going to shape our reality and our environments and our surroundings. And for me, that was my biggest barrier, because I would wonder, why isn't this happening? Why isn't this going through? And when I really started to just look inside and really start to correct my thoughts and really start to just train myself to think differently and to change the input of messages, because there were times where there were negative voices coming, where there were people telling me I couldn't do things, and I would start to believe those things. And I really had to just really train myself to think differently, and that's when I started to see different results, and I was able to overcome those barriers.
I can share that kind of crisis of confidence going through the program, and I would honestly say, especially as an online student, you can feel very isolated. You're not having that immediate feedback that you have when you're sitting in a class and your classmates are talking. That's why I think the discussion part of it is huge for an online student. But I think it took maybe until my last couple of semesters when I finally started to say, I think I can do this. I actually have something to offer in this field of a lot of talented people. I will say, and I don't mind saying this on the personal front, from a practical standpoint, things getting in the way. I started the online program when I was in the middle of a divorce with a 2-year-old, and it was intensely difficult to get through the program. But I would say that it also helped me get through the very, very difficult practical part of what was going on in my life too, because I knew it was investing in something I wanted to do. Where did I want to be in 5 years? There's a means to an end, and it's like if you keep your eye on the ball, like I said before, that will get you through, and then you actually appreciate it all the more. I know for myself, I realized, I say now, I don't think I could pull all the late nights and have so little sleep as I did during at the time. I couldn't do it again, but I am so glad I did. And I think that the reason why you're able to get away with 3 to 4 hours of sleep every night consecutively is because you're determined. I think this is too hard a program to do unless you are all in and you really, really want to do the program. And so it's, and I'm sure everybody who's here, you wouldn't be continuing it if you didn't already kind of reach that crisis of confidence too, to say, is this something I really want to do? If you want to do it, even if you doubt yourself, you'll get there. Just keep going. Just keep going.
We have time for one last question. Oh. Nope. Yep. Wait.
Do you guys have free time again? Because I have no free time right now.
Yeah, I remember not knowing what that meant. And somebody would say something about vacation, and I'm like, I'm going to have to look that word up because I don't I don't know what that is. And fortunately, especially since I'm not commuting so much anymore, there are actual nights that I have free. I know graduating when I'm not having to go after a long day of work and start, my project for the week to turn, I like going, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with myself? This is crazy weird. So it does happen.
Yeah, I remember just being in school. I remember being in my 20s, and I just loved my craft so much. I really didn't have a lot of free time, and I was just so busy. I remember, like, my friends, they'd want me to go out, and people would want me to go on dates, and I remember just having those conversations, just saying, like, I have a final due, or I have homework, or, like, and then I remember people just looking at me like, what? Like, this guy's, like, really doing this? And it was kind of a trade-off, Like, school, I just gave it, I gave a lot of my free time up, and I sacrificed a lot of those things. And now honestly, I do have free time, and I make free time. And it's in the form of just like one day or maybe a few hours where I get to catch up with a friend or catch up with like, a family member, or just make time for that personal space in my life. But in school, just like Christine mentioned, sometimes, you're going to have those nights where it's like 3 hours of sleep, sometimes no sleep, sometimes wishing you had more sleep. And then when you graduate and when you're working and when you're just a lot farther along, you can have more free time. You can start sleeping better. I sleep. Okay, so in school, I think the worst thing I've ever done to my body was depriving it from sleep. I remember being on the cross-country team. I remember having to run miles and every day. And I remember there were some nights where I only had 2 hours of sleep because I just wanted to stay up all night drawing, which was not smart to do. I probably could have had a heart attack. But I remember just doing that and just totally abusing my health in that aspect. And, like, I think just artists, like, if I could just say one thing, even when you're in school, like, take care of yourself. Like, even if you want to stay up all night and draw, like, get sleep. Like, eat well. Like, treat yourself well, and, like, your mind and your body will take care of you. Like, I know, like, when you hear about people doing all-nighters, it seems, like, glorifying and it's good, but it's really not good for you. Like, if you have to do it, like, let it be, like, your trump card or, like, your last resort thing, but, like, try the best you can to, like, take care of yourself, because, like, even to this day, like, I just turned 25, and, like, I still regret not sleeping that much, because it's like now, like, I love sleep. Like 6 to 8 hours of sleep is just like, I cling to that, But like, just take care of yourselves, really. It's really important.
Yeah, if I had one regret, it would be that I did not pay attention to that part. And, it's a marathon, you gotta, to get to the end, you really do have to, like, feed yourself, or you're playing a gamble there of being able to make it past the finish line. Yeah.
It's called toxic success. You don't want toxic success. You want to live and be here.
Okay, I think that will wrap it up. That was a very good wrap up. I appreciate you guys both coming. We're going to move on to our networking session. And what we'd like to do, I was looking over there because that's a nice open space. And to do really good networking, you need to be standing up and walking around and talking to people. So now's the time to stand up and go over and talk to people and hand out your business card, talk to our 2 alums here. You guys are a fountain of wisdom, my God. It's unbelievable. And I'm going to put in another plug for AAUHU. Can we have the hands of the people in AAUHU right now? So if you don't belong, join, because you can come in there and post, my God, I haven't had any sleep in 4 days, and we'll all just say, you can do this, you can do this. Or you can go in there and post, I don't know how to do this in Photoshop, and 6 people will come in and tell you how to do it in Photoshop. It's that kind of stuff. It's wonderful. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.